Hey everybody, it's Andy Timmons speaking to you from NAMM 2017, and you're watching for guitarplayersonly.com. Thank you.
Hi everyone, John Liebman here. You're watching for guitarplayersonly.com, coming to you from the 2017 Winter NAMM Show, Anaheim, California, with my old school friend, Andy Timmons.
We go back a few years, back to the early 80s, mid 80s, down to University of Miami.
I was thinking about that earlier. It was a very cool time to be in school because we were talking before. While we were there, Steve Bailey was there, Tim Mitchell was there, Brian Monroney was there, all the guys from the Miami Sound Machine were there.
Yeah.
It was a very cool generation.
Well,
a great
for me,
time.
you know, and I've said this a lot. I mean, the school is great, the curriculum is great, but it was really the people that were the other players that were there. And I was on a dorm floor with Teddy Kumpel and Teddy Castellucci and Brian Monroney and Mike Abbott. And these guys are, you know, still some of the greatest players I've ever hung with. We were all together, so it was, you know, you're getting all this information in the school and then hanging with these great players, and we would just exchange ideas. We were all just learning from each other, I think, as much as we were from the actual curriculum. But it all added up, and I was gigging, the whole time too.
Yes.
So that I had all this application. So it was. I look back now and realize how fortunate I was in those days.
And it's really cool now with Facebook. You can keep in touch with everybody.
Yeah, I mean, you see, and we're at the NAMM show, so I'm always running into a bunch of UMers here, and people from all over the world. The longer that you're in the business, obviously, you get out and travel. You know, it gets to be a pretty small world, especially at NAMM because they're all here in one building. So, yeah, it's a nice reunion every time.
It is. How'd you become a guitar player? You're from a small town in Indiana, or not so small town?
Well,
You're from Indiana, right?
Yeah, Indiana. Where I grew up in Evansville, Indiana. So
Evansville, right?
I had three older brothers that all played, and my oldest brother was 12 years older than I.
Do you have any sisters?
No
So
sisters.
all before. Oh boy.
I know, my poor mom, right? She was raising four guys on her own, but they all, they were just huge music fans. From the day I was born in '63, they were all buying all the 60s and 70s rock stuff as it came out, so that's my foundation. And then so they had a couple of the obligatory Silvertone acoustic guitars that every family seemed to have back then. So I kind of watched what they would do, and I'd sneak into the rooms when they weren't around and check out the guitar. So their inspiration and influence was huge on me, just because I wanted to be like my brother. And but it just kind of took over from there. Then I started realizing that I was in my bedroom one day and I had Every Picture Tells a Story by Rod Stewart on, and I played a D chord. I went, that's the same chord. It never dawned on me that you could possibly teach yourself these songs, right? So anyway, that began my ear training, and so I was self-taught till about 16. Yeah, and then I sought out a local teacher in Evansville named Ron Pritchett, and because by the age of 16 I was playing professionally. I joined my first band when I was 13, and we were gigging. There were a bunch of older players, so. Yeah, we did all the local dances and got started. My first bar gig was at the Red Baron Lounge at the Holiday Inn and on Highway 41 in Evansville. It's the classic stuff.
I've never been there. I've never heard of it, but somehow I can picture exactly what it was.
Exactly. My first gig, it was like I was 15 years old, and the first night we were playing Born to Be Wild, and a fight breaks out on the dance floor. I guess this is what it's like. But that was and I was with that band for 7 years, and that was my foundation of, I was learning guitar, and I knew by 16 I wanted to be professional. That's, like I said, I sought out a teacher so I could, because I read about Carlton and Lukather and Tommy Tedesco. I said, these guys can read music. I'm like, oh my God, I better learn how to do that. Because even then at that young age, I kind of figured that making it in the music business was like winning the lottery. It just seemed like such a impossible thing, which it kind of was, especially then. But so it was the best thing I ever did, because this guy, Ron, was not only a good teacher, but he was a great jazz player. So he started hipping me he played me Barney Kessel records, and he played like that. He could play.
I saw him. I met him once.
Oh, you met Barney?
I saw him with Herb Ellis and Charlie Bird.
Oh, the
great guitars.
Yes. I just recorded O Barquinho, by the way, which is a big hit for Charlie, but that's another story. But a huge Barney Kessel fan. So he turned me on to that, and he turned me on to he turned me on to Joe Pass, and he turned me on to Oscar Peterson was playing me those kind of records. And so, I was still playing in the rock band, but I was starting to hear all this jazz stuff. It's like, how do these guys know what notes to play over these chords? So he started just showing me the basics. Here's how you play the changes of Misty. And I'd come in, I'd learn the changes, and he'd play the tunes. And it just kind of branched from there. And I stayed with him till I left eventually for Miami. But when
Miami was a great experience. We were down there. I remember the curriculum and ensembles and private lessons and recitals, and we were all playing on each other's recitals too.
Yeah, absolutely. Everybody. It was all. Again, it was such a community of everybody learning from each other and jamming together, and that's really even if you're not at school, if you can find that in your own town, where even if it's at a music store or whatever, where you're meeting people and they could be, sort of less experienced than you are, more experienced. You can always learn from everybody.
Right. So Indiana, and then Miami, and
Yeah.
then you ended up in Texas somehow.
That was through Steve. You mentioned Steve Bailey. He was finishing his undergrad at UM and was going to form a band with the drummer named Steve. With Ray Brinker. Ray was in Maynard Ferguson's band, and Steve was playing with Dizzy Gillespie and Bautista de Rivera. But they both wanted to be in a rock band, and so they started asking around, like, who's the local rock guy? Somebody, I guess, I don't know if I'd met Steve at that point. I met Steve, and we started jamming together, and then so we formed that band, and Ray had a backer. His uncle was financing the band, so they had both gone to North Texas State University in Denton,
Right.
which was just north of Dallas.
Right.
So we moved there, rented a house together, and we're a rock band. Got a singer, and it was a great band. But
What was the name of the band?
It was called Brinker. It was named after Ray. It was a really cool. It was kind of Journey meets the Scorpions, if that's something, But we're talking about 1985.
I don't know if you're blocking your face here
I'm
from the
sorry.
camera.
No, it's hiding behind my. I always hide behind my guitar. No, but it was. For me, those are two of the greatest players I'd ever played with at that point, and still to this day.
So tell me about, fast forward a little bit to Danger Danger. How did that come about?
It was right after Brinker kind of had its run, and we'd played together for a couple years, and they wanted to move to LA, and I wasn't feeling it, and I had a girlfriend there in Texas, so I decided to stay. And not long after that, I formed just my own power trio called the Timmons Band, and we quickly.
How'd you come up with that name?
I did. We polled a lot of people. What would be the best name for the? Very creative, and so we started playing around Dallas, and quickly became, well known as far as guitar instrumental music goes. And one thing led to another, and a guy from Kramer Guitars heard about me and knew the Danger guys were looking for a guitar player. They were already signed to Epic Records, so it was kind of my first recordings with that trio that led to that deal with Danger. So, and that was my introduction to the world stage, really, because they were on a major label, that unimaginable, holy grail thing for all us players. We just thought, man, you got to get signed, you got to be on the major label. So these guys had that going.
Things have changed.
It has changed, and we can talk about that too. But it was an interesting crossroads because I just kind of somewhat auditioned live with Tower of Power. They had just come through. Steve Grove, tenor player from Miami, was playing with Tower of Power. They were coming through town. They needed a guitar player because their guy was leaving, and they said, "We're playing this gig in Dallas. Come by, and they want to check you out." So I went and learned a couple Tower of Power tunes, Squib Cakes and What Is Hip, and went out and sat in. And they were like, "Yeah, we'd like to come out to wherever they were, Oakland, and come join the band." But I was right when I'd gotten the Danger offer. So it's this, artistically, I think maybe I would have resonated more with the Tower of Power, I think. But the lure of MTV and the rock band, it just seemed like, maybe the best step for me to take. But and it was great in a lot of ways. It was my education about, what the music business, how it existed at that time. But it wasn't long before I realized this isn't what I wanted. It was so far away, so far removed from the actual artistry and the music. It was
a nice problem to have, though.
No, it was a nice problem to have, and again, I'm so thankful for the experience. But I knew after that, said, okay, I did that. Now I just want to make the music I want to make that resonates with me. And so from then on, I just put out my own records on my own label, licensed to other labels. And of course, now that's really the only thing you should do.
So what else is keeping you busy now?
So from those days, I've had that solo career, but then I was Olivia Newton-John's music director for 15 years.
I didn't even know that.
It's not many people know me from that, but that was an amazing.
Olivia, I love you. I honestly love you. Okay,
all the Grease tunes. There's a lot of great pop tunes, and I was a fan as a youngster, so I was totally into working with her. And she's one of my favorite people on the planet.
She's from where? Australia?
She's from originally. She grew up in Australia, but she also had quite a bit of time in England. But she lives in the States now and still cohabitates in Australia. I did that. Then of course all my records with Simon Phillips. We had kind of a fusion thing called Protocol. We've done on and off. We just did a couple records in the last few years. So all that kind of has kept me very busy. And some session work is thinned out, I think, for everybody. But there was quite a burgeoning jingle scene for a while in Dallas that kept me going.
Dallas, yeah.
But now it's really all down to my band, and I've got this instructional guitar website called guitarexperience.net, and it's just an X, no EX, but guitarexperience.net. So I'm going to be basically teaching all my tunes from my entire career span.
Wow.
All, very broken down, tabbed out, but also there's going to be a lot of historical stuff as far as all the folks that I've met over the years. I'll be giving stories about all that and lots of videos and stuff from my past, but also how I'm currently learning and what I'm working on. There's going to be a jazz standard every month.
When is this going to launch?
It launches in mid-February.
Okay.
So I'll give you the URL so people can see it, guitarexperience.net. And it's I'm really excited about it because, it allows me to be home a bit more because I'm going to record all the content in my own home studio. And I have a 13-year-old son at home, so, less touring is good right now.
Are you still living in Texas?
I've been in McKinney now for McKinney, Texas for 20 years. So my wife and I, after we married, we built a home there 20 years ago. It's crazy that 20 years went by like that, But we're very happy there, and it's a good place for me to be. And yeah, things are good, man.
You sound happy. Tell me a little bit about your equipment.
Well, I've got a long relationship, with the Exotic pedal company.
Toshio Hariba.
My buddy Toshio, there was a pedal called the BB pedal that I started using maybe about 11 years ago. I want to say 2006. And it was just a pedal that I immediately loved and ended up in my rig. And then we tweaked it and made a signature version of it. And we're revamping it now, and it's going to come out hopefully later this year. So a new Andy Timmons is a signature Exotic. And I've got my trusty Ibanez that I've used forever. Some Mesa amps. But in the studio, it's kind of everything goes. Whatever, the best tone wins. Yeah. You know what I mean? But my Mesa Boogie Lone Star has been my go-to amp, and this Ibanez. And
what kind of strings do you use?
It's Diodario, 10 to 46, kind of basic stuff. My Jen Dunlop picks.
There you go.
Jazz threes.
Well, before we wrap it up, let me ask you: when you came into the music industry, it was very different from the way it is now.
Sure.
I mean, you don't have sessions quite like there's some sessions, but nothing like it
nothing
was.
like it used to be.
And Dallas, you said, was a burgeoning place for jingles, and that's changed too.
Very much.
The industry, the record industry has changed. What advice would you impart to somebody that wants to get into the music industry? A guitar player, a bass player, a musician, probably a young up and coming, somebody that wants to do it.
Sure.
What should they look out for? What should they think about? What should they do? What should they not do?
Well, I mean, again, it is changing drastically all the time now. So for me, I can only say what had worked for me and what I think still works for me. Fortunately, I love so many different types of music. So by diversifying, by studying classical and playing blues and playing jazz and country, anything with guitar, I just wanted to know how to do it, and I would absorb as much as I could. And by doing that, if you truly love it, that gives you a lot more opportunity than if you just want to do the one thing. Well, then there's nothing wrong with that too. The main line for me, the bottom line for me was always just been a genuine passion for it. If you really love it, you're going to keep doing it. As far as what to do, as far as whatever you might consider making it, if it's having some kind of touring career or selling your music online or CDs. There still are people buying CDs, which is great. I tell people these days that because there's no label industry like it used to exist, it's kind of it's a double-edged sword. You have the internet, so when people ask me that, I say, well, you just have to be great. But the thing is, in the old days, when you talk about when we were growing up, you had to be great, but also you'd have to have all these other things fall into place. You had to be in the right place at the right time, get the right A&R guy to notice you. Now you got your iPhone in your bedroom, and if you truly have something that's unique and some art involved with it, I always talk about Andy McKee, where he was recording music in his bedroom. He's a beautiful acoustic solo guitarist, but it was unique and it was musical. And next thing you know, he's touring 300 dates a year. So it takes passion, and it just takes time, and so. For me, what worked is diversification. I'm teaching, now more than I ever have, and I really enjoy that. I didn't used to enjoy teaching in the old days. But having a recording career, I'm blessed that there's people that want to hear the music I'm up to. So the bottom line is, if you love it, you'll keep doing it, and if it's right for you, you'll know. You know what I mean?
Andy, let's not wait 30 years before we get together again.
It's crazy, John.
That's
great to see you. Thanks for having me on the show. For Guitar Players Only, you bass players and drummers, you watch too long. This is totally exclusive, so we'll let you off the hook this time.
From the 2017 Winter NAMM Show in Anaheim, California, with my old buddy here,
Yes,
Andy
sir.
Timmons. I'm John Liebman. You're watching ForGuitarPlayersOnly.com.
No accordions.
You got the 4 in there, too. You're right. For Guitar Players Only. That's what he meant.
Oh,
ForGuitarPlayersOnly.com.